Actually started out on a quad at the age of 3, and I did some fairground races, some races at LACR when it was still up top, not the big sand pit that it is now. So yeah, I was born in Lancaster, California. Kind of raised there till I was about 6 years old, and we moved to Massachusetts. And then I did a lot of moto back there on the 65s, 85s. I lived back there till I was about 13. And I just raced strictly moto, never had any off-road background, just some trail riding with my little brother and my dad and stuff. So we ended up moving back out west. We landed in Lake Havasu. 40 hours a week. Before Idaho, me and Mikey were doing like 60-hour weeks for about a month and a half, doing some side jobs and stuff. And then I'll head home from this, probably take a quick shower and then go out into the garage and start some bike work. Actually, probably this house is right on top of one of my old tracks. Back in the day, a couple years ago. And I started putting up some fences, and now I'm building on top of my tracks. Which sucks, but it is what it is. Yeah, I don't get to hit the Thursday on hill and practice with everybody, and so I don't really get to ride at that speed with anybody. It's usually just by myself. So like in the summer, as you know, it gets hot here, so it's kind of too hard on the body and the bike to go do hour motos or whatever. So I'll do like probably max like 20-minute moto. I've done 2-hour motos in it, but it's just hard on everything. Then you feel like crap for another day or so after. So I do a lot of sprints. When I went to Phoenix and hung out with Destry for a while, he showed me this like do like 1 or 2 lap sprints, take down your time, and then like concentrate on keeping your heart rate low. So it was like kind of a cool tool to use when it does get too hot to just go out and pound an hour moto. I really, like in the winter, I do like to go do longer motos and just kind of find a flow and hit my lines and stuff. But it gets too hot this time of year.
2014 is when I started taking interest in the off-road scene. A lot of people here raced off-road, so I kind of fell in with that crowd. Brandy Richards, Alex Morgan, Brandon Rinwas, and Steven Gibson. A lot of kids that just raced Worcs, and so I checked it out, and actually Bubba Brandell and his parents brought me to my first Worcs race in 2014, where I met Dane Perry and the whole Perry family. And they actually had an injury in the family, so then they didn't finish the race season. So that's when I started going with Perry Concepts, and we started that little team with me and Dane Racing, and it's just been having fun with them ever since. I mean, working is definitely, I wouldn't say holding me back, because it allows me to race, but it definitely doesn't put me in the same position as some of the other riders that I'm facing, where they're riding 3-4 times a week, maybe even more. I don't even know, but I mean, I probably ride once or twice a week if I'm lucky. Doing all my own bike work. Working full-time. I took a foreman position, so it's a little bit, I run into some overtime every once in a while and stuff like that, but I just do what I can and I have fun with it, and as long as I leave the track with a smile, I think everything I do is worth it. Yeah, this is my first Worcs race. I can't even recall what year that was, but it was Prim, Nevada, and this is a picture of my first pit. I've never pitted before, never raced an off-road race before, so it was pretty cool to experience that. As for the race, I spent half the race on the ground.
On that race?
Yeah, I had a different style coming from moto. I felt like I charged too hard into the corners, and I actually hit the back of a couple of people, and like their lines were so much different than what I would have taken at that time. So I struggled on that, and the longer race I was getting tired, but I was still trying to push it like a moto race and just making mistakes. But I think something dug into me that race, and I wanted to do more after that. Back to the old school LACR days. That was those were some good times. I remember battling this kid right here. Had a walkie-talkie on his chest protector, and his dad would tell him to go left, go right to block me. And actually, that's when I first learned how to T-bone people in corners, smash into him to get around him, because I couldn't get around the kid. So I just hit him and put him on the ground, and then kept going. I mean, my dad had to talk to his dad after the race, but that's just how it was. I was on the quad before the bike, and then I got the first XR50 chaparral ever sold. My dad pre-ordered that. Oh, there it is, first trick in the front yard messing around. Yeah, dirt bikes have been my life. I mean, here's me learning how to go to the bathroom with a dirt bike magazine, because I probably seen my dad reading one, so that's what I did. I'm super thankful for what my parents let me do when I was a kid, and I mean, the support they gave me was phenomenal, and I mean, I'm really thankful for that. Yeah, the older I get, look, I'm getting emotional. The older I get, I realize how much it does cost and how much you gotta sacrifice for it, and I'm pretty thankful. I got to race all over the country. Started off in California. We raced in Colorado, Maine, New Hampshire, Vermont, Connecticut. I lived in Massachusetts, so we raced all over there. I did never get to race Southwick, but that's definitely a goal of mine, as I've always wanted to go race Southwick. I love the sand, and just it was probably an hour and a half from my hometown back there, so I think it'd be real cool to get back there and do that.
I'm Randy Perry. I'm the owner of Perry Concepts.
Tell me a little bit about Travis Damon.
Travis Damon, he's a good friend, a very good friend. He's a great employee to us. I've known him since he graduated from high school. I knew him prior to that, but he started hanging out with my son prior to high school. He's a gifted rider. So when he started traveling around to the Worcs series and to the district races, me and my son Dane were racing at that time, going to the same events. Travis would come there, and he usually has some hardship with bikes or just not the proper equipment. So I want to say 2014 is when I offered him to race for Perry Concepts, to help him out with bikes and the equipment he needed, which really catapulted him into what he needed to do. Prior to that, he was always running good, lapping people, and then have mechanical failures. So I just looked at it and said, hey, just a little bit of help, this guy could be okay. So that's kind of how our relationship started race-wise. And probably a year after that, he started working for me for the framing company I have, which is RJ Perry Custom Framing. So with that, our relationship has grown more and more as watching him grow from a laborer into a crew leader now, and probably one day having his own company or running my company with my son Dane. I think that's pretty much, I know that's where they're going to end up here in the next 10 years or whenever I kick the bucket.
The quad. So his first going into quad.
Okay, the quad.
What was the whole quad?
The quad thing was totally like, hey, we seed some quads, 2 of them, at a garage sale, and we're like, we don't have many pros, you know? And we, in Bo Barron, you know, are acquaintances with Dane and Dane and Travis, and they're always joking around and, you know. But the pro class didn't have that many entries, so they said, hey, well, we'll enter the pro class and help it out, you know, make it bigger than it is and see how it goes. So with that being said, you know, Dane went out. If anybody knows Dane, Dane's just out for a good time and get some exercise since he works his ass off setting up the track. So he's like, I want to go race a little bit. And then of course Travis got on the other quad and, you know, shot out of there like a bat out of hell. You know, I think at his first race, don't quote me, but I want to say he took 3rd or was in contention, you know. Yeah, so with that, you know, that's how the quad thing started. It was like, hey, that's a good deal on those quads. Let's get them. Now it's a money pit. So we put him on a couple Perry Concepts bikes we had. In 15, he contended well. I want to say in the 450 and the Pro 2, he was probably on the podium of both those seasons. In 16, he was definitely on fire, you know, so that's when he won the 450A and the Pro 2 championship. Hands down, it was pretty exciting for us. We put a lot of work into it. I have a lot of time traveling with him and Dane, you know, which is kind of hard sometimes when you're 54 and they're in their 20s, adapted to that lifestyle per se. But then on 17 is when he made his pro move on the motorcycle. That year, he did finish 3rd on the pro podium for the season, which was pretty impressive for a rookie and a true privateer. Till this day, he is still a true privateer on the motorcycle and quad.
Getting ready to leave from Mammoth. Dane's gonna get off work soon. We'll load up and go get our spot in line. Yeah. That was a weekend to remember right there. That was the New England Regional Championship, and I was representing the NCSC Race Club. That was they put on couple of race series during the year near my hometown, Carver, Massachusetts, and the track was in Middleborough, Massachusetts. I mean, it was 3-day racing, 2 moto format each day, and I won, whole shotted and won every moto. And then the last moto, the last day, I hit a jump, caught a kicker on it. My dad told me not to hit the full triple, just double it and roll it. But I went for it, and I ended up dislocating my shoulder, and the EMTs wouldn't let me finish, so they put me in 6th place for that weekend instead of the 1st place I wanted to get, obviously. But think about that race probably a little too much while I'm laying in bed, but I mean, it is what it is. I experienced it. It was a good time, and just it's crazy seeing the pictures and seeing the setup, because we didn't have the best bike out there. It was just me and my dad racing, and we were getting it done.
Which one would you say was your first trophy? Was it right here?
Yeah, I'd say it was probably that one, or the other one looked about the same timeline. That one. It's probably the same race. So I was 4 years old in that picture, in '98.
And got your first?
Got one of my first trophies right there. The fairgrounds race. They would do every year. They did some racing at night at the local fairgrounds in I think it was Lancaster, California.
Yeah.
So my dad would always bring us out to that, and I would just buzz around the pits the whole time, and then he'd wave me in when it was time to race. So I'd go put in my moto and then go back out to the pits and just ride around the dirt lot. Yeah, quads, I'd say they're 4 times more expensive than bikes for sure. They're a lot of fun, great time to race, and I feel it's probably the opposite of what a lot of people think, but they're safer to race if you know what you're doing. If you don't know what you're doing, they could be real sketchy. This year I had low profile, step it way up. They got me a race quad, and now they are helping me out. They got a mechanic, Leonard Duncan, building the motors and prepping the bikes before races. I've had so many races on the quads where the motors fail, or I have a shifter fall off, stuff like that. So they're helping me out by trying to make all those little problems go away. Have somebody look over the quad. I can work on it, but there's just little things on quads I don't know about. There's so many temperamental things you have to check every time you race. I mean, you bend spindles, you do all this stuff, and I haven't learned it all yet, so it's been a big help having Leonard, like a professional, look at the bike, and you need to do this, you need to do that. And then he actually meets me at the Low Profile Ranch. They have a track in San Diego, and he'll come out and train me, give me some tips on the quad, stuff like that. And Bo Barron's always a phone call away. He's been a huge help on that program as well, asking him, hey, should I torque this? What should I do with this? Like, what parts do you run here? So he's been a really good help, and the quad community's been awesome. I've enjoyed being part of it now. Everybody's been super supportive. Got some great friends out of it, and some good times. I don't really ride the quad as much as I probably should, but they break so often it's hard to ride them. You need 3 quads to go practice all the time.